Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam.
Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam was born in or around the year 568 AD in a small town in Persia called Jiyeh. His Persian name was Roziba. His master Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam changed his name to Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam. His friends sometimes also addressed him as Abu Abdullah.
Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam was also taught the principles and doctrines of Zoroastrianism.
Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam's father managed to get him appointed as a priest in the local fire temple while he was only 16 years old.
For 3 years, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam played priest in the fire temples of Jiyeh, but then he began to lose interest in his work. On his way to the country, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam entered a church and was taken to the priest. There he learned about Christianity. Later, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam told his father about Christianity, telling him that their religion was better than Zoroastrianism. Angered by this, his father threatened him with imprisonment and torture. Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam, however, refused and was beaten and tortured, and was kept hungry and thirsty in his prison day after day.
One of the servants of Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam's father was a young man called Mehran. It was Mehran who had helped him to get a caravan to Syria.
A few days later, the caravan arrived in the ancient city of Damascus.
Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam at this time was in the 19th year of his life. He was muscular and he had a powerful build. He was endowed with a highly retentive memory and most penetrating intelligence.
He had a critical and analytic mind that applied logic to every situation. After leaving Jiyeh in Persia, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam lived in 4 other cities. He lived for 10 years in Damascus, and then during the next 20 years, he lived in Mosul, Nasabin, and Amuriya. In each of these cities, he read, he studied, and he observed religious knowledge that was extant. He also spent much time in devotions in the hope of finding the gift of enlightenment and inner peace.
The last city in which Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam lived was Amuriya. It was there that he had started hearing rumors of new prophet who said that there was only one God.
Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam desperately wanted to go to Medina to see this prophet and be accepted into Islam. Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam decided to go to Medina as soon as possible.
Decided to go to Makkah as soon as possible.
Some travelers from Yathrib arrived in Amuriya. Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam wanted to travel with them to Syria. Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam spoke to the leader of the caravan and through trade arranged for Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam to travel with them.
Eventually, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam caravan arrived in the oasis of Wadi al-Qura in the Hijaz, and the leader of the caravan announced that they would halt there for 3 days and 3 nights. During this
time, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam planned out what he was going to do. The travelers soon turned on him, and they offered Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam for sale to the highest bidder among the Jews. Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam had protested, but he could not produce any witnesses who would say that he was a free man. His Jewish master made him a prisoner, and the caravan left for its destination without him.
Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam attracted much attention in Wadi al-Qura due to his gigantic stature, and many showed an interest in buying him.
Thus he passed through many hands. Eventually a rich Jew, one named Uthman ibn Ashal, bought him.
Uthman and the other Jews had never seen a slave like Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam. They noted that he didn't talk much, but whenever he did, he spoke words of profound wisdom. His judgment, they noted, was like the judgment of Solomon himself.
His master benefited not only from his work, but also from his advice and his opinions, which he sought from him quite frequently. But he was a vicious and brutal taskmaster, and made Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam almost work non-stop. When Uthman was away on business, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam gathered his dates and put them in a bag. These were the dates he had earned from his wages. He took this bag of dates and headed into the city to search for the Prophet.
Prophet Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was living at this time in the house of Hazrat Abu Ayyub Ansari Radiallahu Anhu as his guest.
Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was seated in the reception room of the house. A few companions sat in front of him. Salman's first glance fell upon his face, and all at once he felt himself dazzled by 1,000 sparkling lights.
Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam was accepted into Islam and became a very close friend of our holy Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
After some battles, Uthman was willing to negotiate the price of Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam's freedom.
Uthman specified to Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam the price of his freedom. Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam would have to plant in Uthman's garden 300 young date palms, and he would pay him 40 ounces of gold.
Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam presented these terms to Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his companions, who The latter thereupon turned to his companions and said to them, "Assist your brother."
All the companions rose to assist their brother. One of them brought 30 saplings, another brought 20, a third brought 15, a fourth 10, and so on until they had collected all 300 as required by the Jew. The Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam then ordered the companions to dig the earth in which the saplings were to be planted. When the ground was ready for planting, he himself came and planted the first tree with his own hands. Every tree struck roots and not one out of the 300 was lost.
300 date palms were planted in the garden of Uthman ibn Ashal, but Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam still had to pay 40 ounces of gold to him. He was not free yet.
A few more weeks passed, and then one day Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent for Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam.
When the latter came into the mosque, he noticed that he was seated on the floor, and his companions sat around him.
In front of him there was a tray, and in the tray there were some nuggets of gold.
This is the garden of Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam. The story behind the garden is that Prophet Muhammad in order to free Hazrat Salman Farsi from slavery, he asked his Sahabi to dig up the ground for 300 date trees. Once the ground was ready, Prophet Muhammad himself came and planted 300 date trees into the ground. The date trees never died, one, and two, the tree started producing dates within a year because of this blessing. Prophet Muhammad had said, "Salmano minna Ahlul Bayt," which meant that Salman was part of the Ahlul Bayt. This is Hadith from Ahmad ibn Hanbal and his Muslim, volume 6, page 618, Sirat ibn Hasham, Taqibat ibn Sa'ad, Asad al-Ghaba fi Marifat al-Sahaba. According to Allama Manzoor Shah Sahab from Sahiwal in his book Madinat al-Rasul, page 309, from those 300 trees, 2 of those trees remained till 1975. Then in 1976 they cut off the rest of the trees. He took the seeds from those last 2 trees and planted them in Sahiwal and Jami Faridia. The fruits came within a year of those trees. The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the gold to Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam and told him to give it to his master as the balance of the ransom. The Battle of Khandaq. It was Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam's idea to dig a ditch around Medina. This strategy worked and the people of Medina won. When the trench was being dug, one of the Muhajirin who was watching Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam claimed him as a Muhajir, immigrant from Makkah, but he was at once challenged by the Muslims of Medina, the Ansar, when they heard this. A lively argument began between the 2 groups of Muslims, the Muhajirin and the Ansar, each of them claiming that Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam belonged to their group and not to the other group. Presently, the Apostle of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala arrived on the scene, and he too heard the argument of the Muhajirin and the Ansar. He was amused by the claims of the 2 sides, but he soon put an end to their argument by saying, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam is neither Muhajir nor Ansar. He is one of us. He is one of the people of the house. This is the masjid of Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam. This is the rear view of the masjid, and right next to it is the graveyard of the martyrs of Khandaq. The death of the Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam was devastated. He became Imam Ali alayhi salam's good friend. In June 656 AD, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam ascended the throne of the Khilafat in Medina as successor of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of his acts upon taking charge of the government of the Muslims was to appoint Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam the governor of the city and the districts of Maidan in Iraq. At this time, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam was quite advanced in his years. Despite that, he was in top physical and mental condition. He left Medina on his 800-mile-long journey to Maidan, carrying only a sajada made of palm leaf on which to say prayers, a bag containing crusts of barley bread, and a water bag made of goat skin, a cup, and a pillow. These were all his worldly possessions. However, by the time he had arrived to his destination, he had given all these things away, except the sajada, because he saw others in need of these items. Unfortunately, within a week of his arrival, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam, the Persian, the slave of Allah, and the bosom friend of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Imam Ali alayhi salam died. He was 88 years old at his death and was buried in Maidan. May Allah be pleased with his loving slave, Hazrat Salman Farsi Alaihis Salam, and may He overwhelm his soul and His bounty, grace, with His bounty, His grace, and His mercy.